In order to solve United's defensive issues, I think Ten Hag should consider potentially moving to a 5 at the back system with Sergio Reguilon and Dalot the wing backs, either side of a back 3 with Amrabat in front, Casemiro and Bruno Fernandes either side, and Højlund and Rashford playing as a front 2. Or if he wanted to stick with the diamond system, which I definitely think is an option, I think he has to move Christian Eriksen out of that wide central midfield position, whilst also moving Casemiro out of that deep single pivot position, and so the solution in my eyes is to use Casemiro and Mason Mount either side of Sofyan and Amrabat as a deep single pivot, allowing Bruno Fernandes to remain at the point of the diamond in behind Højlund and Rashford. And I think Brighton's opening goal over the weekend against United, as well as Borussia Dortmund's clash with PSG, shows exactly why Ten Hag needs to make these tactical and personnel changes. But before I go any further, remember to subscribe to the channel and check out my Patreon podcast, which will be linked below. But also, if you want cheap, good quality football jerseys for the new season, or retro jerseys from the past 40 years, then check out jerseyfifa.com, a link will be in my Instagram bio, and if you use coupon code Atlantis, you should get a discount as well. I'll leave my Instagram at the top of the description and comment section, and a link will be in my Instagram bio. So if we start off by analysing Brighton's opening goal, we can see that United are happy to allow Brighton's centre-backs to have the ball in the middle third, sitting off in a narrow 4-3-3, with the front three of Rashford and Højlund either side of Fernandes, positioned incredibly close to each other, giving United a 3v2 in the deeper area of the midfield where Brighton's double pivot of Gross and Dahoud were positioned. We then see Von Hecke pick a fantastic midfield splitting pass, finding Danny Welbeck, but at this point United are able to deal with it well, stopping Welbeck from turning and forcing him to lay the ball back first time into Pascal Gross, and this was due to how compact the 4-3-3 defensive shape was, with the backline squeezing high up the pitch and closing off the space in behind the midfield three. However, as the ball is laid back to Pascal Gross, we start to see the first issue, which is Marcus Rashford's complete lack of intensity, showing no desire to follow Gross's slight movement forward, or even trying to apply any sort of pressure, which now allows Gross to circulate the ball out wide, as Brighton take up that box shape in midfield. As the ball gets moved out to Veltman on the flank, this is where United's system begins to fall apart. In my opinion, Christian Eriksen has to be the player to move over and close Veltman down, as this will allow Reguilon to hold a deeper, narrower position and carve the ball in behind him for a Dingra. However, Eriksen just hasn't got the legs to be able to get across to Veltman in time, forcing Reguilon to hold a higher position, which consequently opens up the space for the pass in behind, releasing a Dingra. I think that if Ten Hag wants Sergio Reguilon to be the player who pushes out to close down the wide player in this situation, then he has to use a back 5, as this will give him an extra man in that back line, and the effect of this is that when Reguilon does push out to close down Veltman, in a back 5, a Dingra wouldn't gain that big space between Lisandro Martinez and Reguilon, as the left-sided centre-back in United's back 5 would be positioned in this space. If Ten Hag does want to use a back 4 and continue with this diamond in midfield, then he can't use Eriksen in this wide position, because he's far too slow and nowhere near athletic enough to cover the ground that the wide centre midfielders need to be able to cover when used as the wide points in this diamond shape. Really, these wide midfielders need to have the athleticism of fullbacks or wingers, essentially as box-to-box midfielders, and Christian Eriksen in 2023 is certainly not that. But we can also see the third issue in this goal, which is Casemiro's lacklustre reading of the game. As soon as the ball gets played out wide, Casemiro needs to be looking to get back goal side of Welbeck, and McTominay as well when he's outside has to be busting a gut to get back with Adam Lallana, which will then allow Lindelof to drop off into a deeper position behind Martinez, covering the centre of the box. Veltman threads the exact right pass at the exact right time into Welbeck, who cleverly has held a position between United's midfield and defensive lines. And from here you can see that because Reguilon has held a high position due to Eriksen being unable to get across and press in time, both players are subsequently taken out of the game with this pass, and now with one touch to control and another to thread the ball down the line to a Dingra, Welbeck now has the opportunity to run off Casemiro, who gets caught ball watching, not following Welbeck's movement into the box, and Lindelof as well doesn't cover himself in any glory, as him and Dalot have a 2v2 in the box, and Dalot positions himself perfectly, meaning that Lindelof only really has to worry about Lallana and stopping this ball coming across the box, but he barely attacks the ball, getting caught flat-footed and throwing a loose leg at what really wasn't a great cross, but Lindelof's lack of conviction sees the ball roll through to Welbeck, who now has a few yards of space in behind Casemiro, and he finishes it first time past Onana, a goal that really came against a run of play in the first half, with United probably having the better of the two in the first 20 minutes. And I think we saw how effective the 5 at the back system can be during certain phases of play for large proportions of Borussia Dortmund's game against PSG. PSG under Luis Enrique this season are using a very positionally organised attack, very similar to what we've seen from Xavi's Barcelona. And in this phase of play we can clearly see they're set up in a 2-3-2-3. And so in this phase of play we saw Borussia Dortmund temporarily move to a back four, with Marius Wolf retaining a higher position, allowing Borussia Dortmund to potentially man-to-man press higher up the pitch. You can also see that Julian Brandt is playing the role that you would imagine Bruno Fernandes would, pushing up in behind the front two onto Manuel Ugarte. But as PSG are able to move out of their defensive third into the middle third, we see Borussia Dortmund revert back to a 5 at the back shape, with Marius Wolf dropping back alongside Kylian Mbappe, giving Borussia Dortmund a 5-3-2 defensive shape. On the far side we also see the benefits of using 5 players in the back line, as Ryerson, the left wing back, is able to get close to Dembele on the touchline, but because he has 3 centre backs behind him, there isn't the space for Hakimi to underlap into, because Nico Schlotterbeck is positioned in that area, and also crucially in comparison to Manchester United, Sabitzer has the athleticism to follow Hakimi's movement forward. We also see here as the play gets circulated back to around the halfway line, that in the 5-3-2 defensive shape that Borussia Dortmund are using, not only does it allow you to pack the centre of the pitch and block off passing lanes, forcing the opposition out wide, but it also makes the opposition's play incredibly predictable, as you know from this position that PSG most likely are going to look to funnel the ball down the side of Borussia Dortmund's narrow front pentagon. And when the ball does go out to Lucas Hernandez on this left side, you can see that the 5 at the back system just makes it so easy for Borussia Dortmund just to go man to man in this situation. Marius Wolf, the right wing back, is able to push up a lot higher than a right back would be able to, allowing him to apply pressure to Vitinha almost immediately. And he's able to do this because in the back 5 he knows that Nicolas Süle essentially in this situation is able to become a right back and pick up Kylian Mbappe. And as you can see, this defensive shape allows Borussia Dortmund to go man to man, not just up against PSG's front 5, but also against their midfield as well. And so if Ten Hag did switch to a 5 at the back system, first of all it would allow United to protect the centre of the pitch, but also adding an extra player to the back line would also stop a lot of these third man runs in behind United's back line, as we saw Adingra make for Welbeck's goal. If Ten Hag considered a move to a 5 at the back system too much of a conservative move, he could stick with the diamond, but he'd have to take Christian Eriksen out of the wide central midfield position. And I actually think Casemiro works much better as a wide central midfielder, as I personally just think Sofyan Amrabat has better reading of the game in these deeper positions, and so suits that deep single pivot role a lot more than a wide central midfielder role. I think it's either McTominay or Mount as the right-sided central midfielder, and to be honest, I think McTominay has to improve his tracking of runners into the box, as he failed to react quickly enough and get back goal side of Adam Lallana. And if he is to retain a starting spot ahead of Mason Mount, it is going to be from his defensive qualities, as in possession Mason Mount is certainly better from that right-sided central midfield position. Now I am going to do a whole playlist of videos analysing the 4-4-2 diamond, so if they are out I'll leave them linked in the description. If not, subscribe to the channel and click the bell so you do get notified when they do come out. Give the video a like, put your thoughts in the comment section below, and subscribe to my Patreon as well for longer form and other sorts of content.